Lost Caverns of Ixalan spoilers are in full swing, and today we'll be taking a look at a ton of new cards that have just been spoiled. And I tell you what, these are big game changers, absolutely incredibly powerful cards that could really change Standard. So let's get into the first one. Kicking things off, we have a legendary artifact, Chi Mill the Inner Sun. So it's a mythic 6 colorless mana, so it's quite pricey. Spells you control can't be countered, so it's going to really hurt control decks if there are going to be a bunch of control decks going around. At the beginning of your end step, discover 5, and discover 5 basically means you exile cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card with a mana value of 5 or less, and you get to cast it. Alright, which is pretty good, and if you don't, you put it into your hand. You either draw a card or you just get to cast something, and it can't be countered. This is actually incredibly powerful. You could just put one of these in your deck. If you're a mid-range deck or even a control deck, you could just jam one of these in your deck, resolve it, and you're doing pretty well. Right now, this itself can be countered, but if you ever do get this in play, I don't know whether or not you can find a way to just cheat it out or anything like that, then you're doing pretty well. Discover 5 is a very powerful ability. Being able to just start casting things every single turn for free that cost 5 or less is very strong, and if not, it just goes into your hands. You get basically card draw every turn. This is a very strong card. I don't think it's going to see a ton of play or really much play in Standard. To me, it's more of a commander card, but it is still really good. Okay, then we have a black mythic blood letter of Ixalan. I believe that's how you say it. 4 mana for a 2/4 flyer. So it's pretty much going to be in a mono black or very heavy black deck anyway, with that triple black. 2/4 flyer for 4, not the greatest stats. If an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead. So this basically amplifies all of the damage pretty much that you're going to be doing in every single turn, right? Which is very, very strong. To me, this finds a perfect home in a mono black aggro list. You imagine you've got things like Evolved Sleeper, you've got your Tenacious Underdogs, you've got so much stuff that gets in there in the early turns. You know, your Friction, Flesh Gorgers with Menace, getting in there, dealing the damage. You imagine, right? You have just, say, a Friction Flesh Gorger, you know, or even a Tenacious Underdog, a 3-power guy. They're taking 6, right? This is ridiculous. So, yeah, I see it's doing pretty well. I mean, itself, you know, imagine you untap, it's got evasion, it's got flying, it gets in there. You know, it's life loss as well as damage. If you have a way to drain life from your opponent in your turn, then it's really good. You imagine you have a Shieldred in play and you force your opponent to draw some cards in your turn. All of a sudden, that's going to be incredibly painful. So, I think this is good. It is kind of fitting in the same slot as a few powerful 4-drops. You know, Shieldred is obviously very powerful. You've got Beseech the Mirror as well. But I do feel like this could find a home in an aggressive style black deck. Right, then we have the Black God, which the blood letter was of. Obviously, we got the Ixalan's Deepest Betrayal. So it's a 5-drop for a 4/4 flying lifelink. I mean, that's pretty okay stats. It's not too bad. And then whenever it attacks, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. So that's actually a pretty strong ability. You know, you're just attacking them and you're ripping cards out of their hand. If not, you're drawing cards, which is quite nice. And if they discard a land card, you make a 1/1 bat with flying. That's actually pretty good. Most of the time, people just want to ditch lands because they want to keep the good stuff in their hands. Well, if they ditch land, you're getting some flyers, which is actually quite nice. And then when it dies, you then transform it. When you transform it, you get Temple of the Dead. That's for black, and then to transform it back into the god, you have to pay 3 mana, tap, activate only if a player has 1 or fewer cards in hand. So you want to be stripping cards out of the hand, you know, Liliana of the Veil, things like that, and then you're going to get them. So that's actually pretty good. I actually rate it. Now on to the blue god. Now for me, this is the one I'm excited for the most, as I think it is very powerful. So we've got Ojor Patik, you got that right, Deepest Epoch. So it's 4 mana for a 4/3 flyer. Not the best stats, right? We've just seen already a 4/4 flyer for 4 with lifelink, which is a lot better. It is 1 mana more than this one, but okay. Whenever you cast an instant spell from your hand, it gains Rebound. Now, Rebound is a really old mechanic. I believe it came out first in Rise Eldrazi, but it is a very, very powerful mechanic, and it is instant. It's not just any, not, you know, instant and sorcery, but you know. So basically, Rebound is when you cast it, you basically exile it, and then what ends up happening is at the beginning of your next turn, you then get to cast it again, right? So you imagine you cast something like, I don't know, you cast a Quick Study, right? You draw 2, untap, draw another 2. That alone, bang, incredibly powerful. Even if you cast Gopher Throat, kill your guy, untap, cast it again, kill another guy. Very strong. You can use the End as well. That's another great card you could use. There's amazing, a ton of amazing, to be fair, instances that you can really get Rebound, mainly in blue and black, I think. I mean, you could get red as well, you know, if you really want to do Lightning Strike and stuff like that, but For me, it's definitely in the control style of blue and black. And then, of course, like all the other gods, when it dies, it does transform. Then it goes into the Temple of Cyclical Time. Now, for me, this looks interesting. So when it flips, it gets 3 time counters on it. Then it adds blue, and you get to remove a time counter. And then you can pay 3, and then once it has no time counters on it, you can then flip it back. So the fact is you get to basically remove this in 3 turns. This is incredibly powerful. Why is it powerful? It doesn't have a really difficult way of flipping back. All the others have this weird, game situations to be able to flip them back. This just does it over time. That's fine. And it ramps in for a blue list, essentially, if they kill it. So it is actually pretty good. For me, this is the one I'm looking forward to. Then we got a reprint, Resplendent Angel. 3 mana, 3/3 flyer. Pretty good stats for like an aggressive white deck. And then at the beginning of each end step, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 angel with flying and vigilance. And then you get to pay 6 mana. Resplendent Angel gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink. So this is incredibly powerful. We've seen this before. I think it was in one of the core sets, I believe it came out. It's a very powerful card. And angels need some help. There are some good angels in Standard. There's some good angels with lifelink in Standard as well. You've got that Boombringer Valkyrie, which is basically a Baneslayer angel. That's an incredible card. So using cards like that, I think would be very good. Resplendent Angel helps. I mean, it itself can make tokens, right? You can just pump it, swing, and get a 4/4 every turn. Like, that's really, really good. And the fact is that you can give it lifelink, and it's creating tokens that fly and have vigilance. They're 4/4s. They're massive. This actually is a good card. Will it see play? It all depends on how strong and how good all the rest of the angel, kind of strengths are. But it is a really nice reprint. Right, another mythic, we've got Sovereign Okin Ahu. Really interesting names in this set. 4 mana, so we've got Selesnya. 3/4 with Ward 2, so it's got a little bit of protection, which is pretty good. Whenever it attacks, for each creature you control with power greater than that creature's base power, put a number of +1/+1 counters on that creature equal to the difference. So it's a bit of an interesting one. How this basically works is it makes your creatures that are already bigger even more bigger, essentially. Right? So it's amplifying the size of all your other creatures. I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's really worth it. I mean, the protection's quite nice. The Ward 2. But to be honest, I just don't see much play. Green-white is really weak at the moment. I don't think this is going to help any green and white decks. Yeah, not the greatest. Now, this is an interesting one. I did see this one the other day, and I was like, wait a minute. So, the Millennium Calendar, okay. 1 colorless artifact. Whenever you untap 1 or more permanents during your untap step, put that many time counters on the Millennium Calendar. Then you can pay to tap double the number of counters on it. When there are 1,000 or more time counters on it, sacrifice it and each opponent loses 1,000 life. So, in Standard, this is going to be quite tricky. You don't really have much in the way to like double the amount of counters that you put on this. Now, in formats like Commander, right? I mean, you're doubling season out, you're Vorinclex or whatever. This is going to be absolutely mental. In Standard, it's going to take some time. I haven't really worked out how many turns you would need to get from, basically the turn you cast it. Say you cast on turn 1 and you start activating it, turn 2 onwards. This to me would be a nice sweet one-off in a super slow, grindy control deck. I'm talking like one of those control decks that doesn't really have a win condition. They don't really have any creatures. They are just drawing that game out so long. And this to me feels like one of those cards that would fit in one of those decks. It doesn't do anything, like at all. The entire game. You have to sink a ton of mana into it to get up to 1,000. I mean, it's probably going to take you absolutely ages. You also then have to have just a sheer amount of permanence as well. It's just not really worth it. I mean, this is a really fun card and I look forward to playing it in Commander, to be fair, but for Standard it's just not. However, this card is good. Then we got Get Lost. 2 mana instant, destroy target creature, enchantment or planeswalker. Its controller creates 2 treasure maps. There are artifacts which they can pay 1 to sacrifice, and then target creature you control explores. To me, this is a better version of Fateful Absence. Now, Fateful Absence is a really good removal spell. However, I do feel like this is so much better. Same mana, pretty much does the same thing, but given the maps instead of clues, maps aren't that great. In all honesty, maps are not great. It's just a straight up pay 2, draw a card, right? So, yeah, I do feel like this is a really good removal. It does get enchantments, which is relevant in Standard as well. Yeah, quite a nice removal, and I'm looking forward to see it being played in a ton of different decks. Then we have the Ancient one. Now, I'm going to do a whole video based on the mechanics of this set, because I think these are some of the most powerful mechanics we've had in Standard in a very long time. We have the Ancient one, which is a 2 mana 8/8. Okay, we have Descend 8. It can't attack or block unless you have 8 or more permanents in your graveyard. You know, you need to fill your graveyard up. You know, you're not going to be doing it. If you play on turn 2, you're not going to be doing anything with it straight away. Then you can pay 4 mana, draw a card, then discard a card. When you do, target player mills cards equal to the discarded card's mana value. Now, there are a ton of ways to get 8 cards, 8 permanents into your graveyard. Like, insanely fast, right? You can play this on turn 2. Okay, then you can start milling yourself. There are a ton of cards which can just put cards into your graveyard. The fact is, it's just permanence. There have been so many things where it's like equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard, or enchantments, or instants and sorceries. This is just permanence. So you could build your deck where you have no instant sorceries. It's just all permanents. It's enchantments, it's artifacts, it's creatures, it's planeswalkers. And actually, there's nothing wrong with that. That's quite easy. You could, you know, build a deck in Standard to get 8 cards in your graveyard. Naturally, you're going to get it over time. There are cards that can mill you for 4, 6. I think there's even some that can even mill you maybe for 8. There are a ton of different cards that can mill you. And to be honest, you can get there super quick. I mean, this can mill you as well. So yeah, this is actually a pretty good creature, just overall. Then we have Molten Collapse. This is actually a really good removal spell. We got a black-red sorcery. Choose one. If you descended this turn, you may choose both instead. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, or destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. So most of the time, this is probably just going to be cast for 2 mana, destroy target creature or planeswalker. And that's a really good value. It is sorcery. It reminds me of Dreadball, which was an old removal spell back in the day. And that saw a ton of play. I do expect this to see a ton of play. Just 2 mana, just be like, kill your guy. Okay, cool. That's pretty good. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent mana value 1 or less. There isn't many in Standard at the moment that jump out at me that you would really want to deal with that cost 1 or less. Now, in more older formats, there are a ton of stuff that you might want to deal with. You know, when we look at things in Modern, for instance, which is my favorite format, there are a ton of stuff that you can get rid of that cost 1 or less. Hey, look, you're playing against Amulet, take their Amulet. You know, you're playing against Colossus Hammer, destroy their Colossus Hammer. There are so many different things that you can destroy with this. So I actually think this could be pretty good in older formats, but still very good in Standard. Then we're on to the rest of the land cycle. Now, we saw the green, white land, creature land. We're finishing off the cycle. We got Restless Vents. So that's red and black. Pay 3 mana. You get a 2/3 insect with menace. Good at getting in a little bit of damage. But when it attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. This is actually pretty good. Being able to kind of loot is quite nice. Well, it's not kind of looting, but you know, you get what I mean. If you've got no cards in hand, you just get to draw a card. Like, yeah, this is really good, being able to just siphon through cards that you don't want. I really rate this. It's nice and cheap. Get in there, deal some damage. It's got menace. It's going to be a little bit tricky to block as well. Overall, a pretty good one. And then we got the red-green one, Restless Ridge. That's cool. It's like a dinosaur. I quite like that. So it's 4 mana. You get a 3/4 dinosaur. That makes sense. I don't feel like it should have trample. Does anyone think it should have trample? And then whenever it attacks another target creature, attacking creature, gets +2/+0 to the end of the turn, then you get to untap it. So you basically give a creature vigilance, and it gets a little bit stronger in the front end. That's pretty good. You know, you can get in there, deal some damage. The 3/4 stat line is a bit weak. It'd be great if it could target itself. We can get in there for maybe as a 5/4 and gives itself vigilance. I think that'd be pretty sick. But overall, I think it's okay. I think it's an okay one. I mean, Restless Cottage is still so far the best one I've seen from the previous set, but this still has a home. Now on to the blue-white one. We're not talking about any Celestial Colonnades this time, although that would be a fantastic reprint. 3 mana, so for a 2/3, so we got similar to the red-black one, which is 2/3, but this one has flying, so it's got better evasion, let's be fair. When it attacks, you create a map token. That's not bad. You know, it's only 3 mana to activate. You can get in there, deal some chip damage. I would definitely play this in my control deck. You know, activate the map tokens. Hey, look, you could, if you really wanted to, you know, attack with this, get a map token. You could then next turn activate this again, swing, sacrifice the map token, maybe make this bigger because you could put the counter on it and it keeps the counters on it. There's a lot of ways around this, and I do rate it. So, yeah, actually, I think this is a very strong card. Right, to finish off the cycle, we have the blue-black one, which is Restless Rift. 4 mana, so pretty much most of them are 3 and 4 mana. 4 mana for a 4/4 shark with Death Touch, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. When it attacks, the target player mills 4 cards. This is what I'm saying. You can mill yourself. We just talked about the Ancient one and the Descender mechanic. Just mill yourself for 4 cards. That's incredible, you know. This is actually pretty good stats. I mean, 4 mana 4/4 with Death Touch is pretty good. We're looking, you know, Restless Card just says very good. That's a 4 mana 4/4. When it attacks, you get to interact with their graveyards. Well, this one, you can either mill them or you can mill yourself, which makes the rest of your cards more powerful. And on top of that, it's got Death Touch. They got Children in play. You're attacking. They ain't going to be blocking. Most of the time, they don't want to be. So you'll be getting in there, dealing that damage by rare. And it can also put your opponent off from attacking with big creatures themselves. If they've got a big creature, I don't know, an 8/8, a 10/10, whatever, and they want to get in there, this shark's like, nah, I'm going to block and I'm going to kill you. That's how good this shark is. So, yeah, I actually really rate this. Is it better than the old Creeping Tar Pit? I love Creeping Tar Pit. You know, one of my favorite creature lands. A potential, but, you know, it is still a very good one. So those are just some of the cards that have just been shown from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. It's strong, right? This set is looking to shape up and just shake up Standard big time. I actually think this set, in my eyes, is more powerful than Wilds of Eldraine. Now, Throne of Eldraine was crazy. Wilds of Eldraine was a little bit more, I wouldn't say dumbed down, but a little bit weaker, that's for sure. Ixalan wasn't a massively powerful set the first time around, but I kind of feel like they ramped this up big time with this one. The gods look powerful. The mechanics are insane. I'm going to do an upcoming video regarding the mechanics because they're going to be massive game changers. But overall, this set is looking strong. I love the creature land cycle. There's so many amazing cards. Can't wait to build decks with. But not only that, dinosaurs. We haven't looked at any today, but there are some incredible dinosaurs as well. So yeah, very strong set. The whole set list hasn't been out yet. We will try and cover more cards before the release. But expect deck tech, guys. Ton of standard decks that come in with Lost Caverns of Ixalan. If you made this fun to the video, guys, and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash the like button, make sure you subscribe for more Magic content, and let me know down in the comments what are your thoughts on the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Which one of today's cards is your favourite? For me, it has to be that Blue God Rebound. Yeah, baby. But overall, I'm really liking this set. That's it from me, guys, in today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.